A, B, C, D, E. You know what? I think you get where I'm going with this. The alphabet, right? We use these 26 unique letters every single day, and yet I'd be willing to wager that most of you don't know a whole lot about the history of the English alphabet. While everyone should have a basic understanding of how their alphabet came to be, I think it's particularly pertinent to a college that emphasizes the importance of writing and public speaking. First, I'd like to explain how writing was first created out of the necessities of an advanced civilization to deal with larger amounts of information and even greater abstraction. Then I want to come back and focus on the English alphabet we all know and love, and detail how it has come to be what we see in books, on our clothing, and all over the world today. Let's start from the beginning. For millions of years, all the information humans need to remember was stored in one place, their brains. Unfortunately, the human brain is not a flawless storage device for three main reasons. One, its capacity is limited. Two, our storage is automatically deleted upon death. And three, our brains evolved to store particular types of information. Now that last point is really important. You see, ancient hunter-gatherers needed to remember which plants were nutritious and which plants were poisonous based on the small differences in their leaves. But at no point were they asked to memorize, let's say, how much grain they harvested over the course of a year. Botanical, zoological, and social information was all that mattered until civilizations grew, both in size and complexity. So you're not going to like what I'm about to say, but it's true and it's important. In order for a kingdom or an empire or even just a country to operate, taxes have to be collected. I know, I don't like it any more than you do, but it's true, and organized governments do depend on them. And in order to keep track of these payments, mathematical data had to be acquired and maintained. But the human brain cannot keep track of the tax records of 10,000 plus citizens. It's simply not possible. Trust me, I've tried. And so, around 3500 BC, some geniuses of Mesopotamia developed a system for keeping track of information outside of their brains. We call this system writing, or more specifically what they were using, cuneiform. Cuneiform literally means wedge-shaped because it involved a series of wedge-shaped impressions in clay and was the first writing system ever conceived. However, it is not actually considered an alphabet. I actually thought it was, and I even said it was for the preliminary round of this speech. But upon some further research over the last week or two, I started to get a bit confused. And so I reached out to some experts of the field and got a response from the very sympathetic Professor Daniel Potts. He teaches Eastern archaeology at NYU, and he informed me that cuneiform signs are not syllabic. Essentially, you cannot read them out loud, disqualifying it from becoming a true alphabet. However, what the Mesopotamians accomplished did enable people to record a handful of numbers and several symbols that could represent people, territories, animals, dates, and so forth, allowing this advanced civilization to keep track of far more data than any human brain could possibly remember. Even more importantly, what they did over 5 millennia ago has evolved into almost every alphabet today. Although we refer to it as the English alphabet, or simply the alphabet, English actually uses Latin script, which originated in the 7th century BC, some 3,000 years after our Mesopotamian friends invented cuneiform. Although ultimately stemming from cuneiform, Latin script evolved directly from the Egyptian alphabet, the first true alphabet. We finally got it. This version was a more advanced version of hieroglyphics and used around 30 letters that actually represented sounds, which could then be strung together to create words and sentences. Hopefully this is starting to sound a bit more familiar, but wait, there's a lot more. The Egyptian alphabet was transformed into the Phoenician alphabet, later to be redesigned by the Greeks and ultimately appropriated by the Romans. As you may be starting to see, the English alphabet had a pretty tumultuous journey that involved several more countries, numerous adaptations, and a couple thousand years. So let's skip ahead a bit to the beginning of the 11th century AD, when Old English in England included 23 of our 26 letters. But not for too long, because soon after, Soon after Old English came around, Duke William II of Normandy invaded and occupied England, displacing Old English with the Anglo-Norman language, which is where we get some words with French origins like sabotage, etiquette, and even dentist. By the 13th century, Middle English had emerged and reflected around 200 years of Norman rule. Letters kept changing, both in design and usage for a while, until 1448, the year our alphabet was standardized and has since changed very little, because in 1448, Johannes Gutenberg of Germany invented the Gutenberg press, a mechanical type printing machine that completely altered the way we use the written language and played a key role in the development of the Renaissance, the Reformation, the Age of Enlightenment, and the Scientific Revolution. Because without it, we would have never been able to mass produce writing and disseminate it on a global scale. Well, here we are. The year is 2018, and English has evolved with a flawless alphabet. Thank you. I'm sorry, that's not true. I can't hold it back, that's not true. If that were true, we wouldn't have homonyms, heteronorms, homophones, and all these words that represent the numerous words that can either mean the same thing, have the same definition, but aren't actually the same. If the English alphabet was perfect, I wouldn't have spent most of elementary school struggling to spell one of the days of the week. Wednesday? What is that? The English alphabet is still evolving and still has a lot of work to do. Maybe one day A, B, C, D, E will be as ancient to humans as the Mesopotamian cuneiform. I don't know. But what I do know is that next time you write something down, you should look carefully at one of the letters. Think, really think just for a minute about how far it has traveled to get there and what on earth you do without it. Thank you.